All right, we are back with another one quarter game review, the series where we go to the arcade, we find an interesting looking game that's unfamiliar to us, we quarter up, and we decide whether this game is worth spending more of our hard earned money. And in today's episode, we're going back to a 1985 game from SNK. We're talking Street Smart, a game that is part beat 'em up, part fighter, part wrestler. It certainly looks interesting. So let's get right into it. Alrighty, we are taking a look at Street Smart. And as this boots up, winners don't use drugs. That is always a great sign. Let's take a look here at the attract mode just to see what we're getting into today. A little metal, full crowd. Oh, is this a fighting game or a beat 'em ups? It's very interesting. So it looks like a fighting game that two players simultaneous, but against CPU players. Very interesting. Very much a Ryu clone there right at the front. Not who the guy in the pants is. All right, but all I see is fighting game. No special moves, just typical punches, kicks. It's an SNK game, obviously. Look at all those SNK scores. It is time to quarter up. All right, let's log. Let's hit the start button and jump right in. All right. Looks like we got jumps. All right, it's a 3 button. There's our kick. What are we doing here? Is this a... I don't know what we're doing. A lot of button mashing going on. Do I pin the guy? Like... what's it take to, like... does say it's a tag championship back there. Turn around. I don't know how to pin him. Well, apparently you just beat him up until you kill him, I guess. That's an interesting one. It says it's a championship tag match, but I don't see where you pin, how you pin. It's obviously kicking and fighting. Oh, and oh, so I'm not dead. That's good. Uh, Not sure. Oh, pile driver. So there's definitely got to be a way to pin if I can. Oh, well, right away we messed up our score there. So I don't know what to think about this one. It's very confusing. Looks like a wrestling game, fighting game, karate, all that stuff, but then or martial arts, but then it's got elements of wrestling in it. I mean, I got pile drivered. Uh, you know, I could find no way to pin if it was actually wrestling. So we watched this the track mode, see if we can get any hints. Very confusing. Very interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I can't tell if you just beat them until you knock them senseless. Obviously, that took a lot more. It's a quarter muncher for sure. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. All right, guys. Well, there you go. That was Street Smart from SNK. Super interesting. As I'm reflecting on it, I have mixed emotions, mixed thoughts. And as we do here, we're going to grade this game on graphics, sound, gameplay, storytelling, and then overall. So, right away, graphics wise, I'm digging this one. Nice, large sprites. Some of those sprites are really, really big. We have dynamic backgrounds that change from stage to stage. While it isn't your traditional beat 'em up with big long stages, you're kind of encapsulated in these individual arenas for each fight. There's lots of extra characters and activity going on all around you that really set the stage. Again, you look at some of that stuff, you can see that main character that reminds you a little bit of Ryu, uh, other characters that remind you maybe of DJ, some of these iconic Street Fighter characters that came along after this game. So, very interesting from that aspect. Um, so, for me, the graphics are very solid on this one. And so, I'm going to give them a 3.8. They are getting up there in quality, and I dig this one quite a bit from the looks and the graphics standpoint. They did some nice things here, and again, 3.8, great job. Now we got to turn to the sound. Again, the sound on this one is typical. Some punch kick sounds, a little bit of character screaming. Not a whole lot to it. The music was average at best, uh, but not super annoying either. So I'm gonna give the sound on this one maybe a 2.7. It's better than not having sound, but it's not anything that's going to stick around and be a memorable classic from that standpoint. There's nothing that seemed to just jump right out at me as, "Hey, this is fantastic. This is a sound or music score that I want to listen to, that I want to incorporate into." Uh, my sound library to listen to, or anything like that. It's not an iconic score by any means. Now let's talk gameplay. Gameplay is super confusing. Um, this is a game that's supposed to have in it a combo system. Clearly, I could not figure that out. It was one of the first beat 'em ups, if not the first beat 'em up slash fighter to really introduce a combo system. It also has special moves. They were getting pulled off on me quite often, but I couldn't figure out the move list. So it's one of those things that's going to take lots of play and practice, or you could cheat and go look at a game, a move list somewhere on the internet. But it's going to take practice to master. And because it's so confusing, I couldn't tell what I was supposed to be doing. Right as I'm beating these guys, they're laying on the ground, and that to me is it's either a setup for additional moves, which I could not figure out, or that's a wrestling aspect. Again, it's called a tag match because you have cooperative play in this game where you can play with a friend against the same opponents. And so If it's wrestling, was I supposed to jump on them and pin them? I could not figure that out. There didn't seem to be any way to do it. So I was left to just beat on them until they started blinking like a typical beat 'em up boss until they died. And maybe that's the only way to do it, but it's not super clear. There's not a lot of indication or directive in this game telling you kind of what you're supposed to be doing. It does seem like there is a lot of activity for something that you're supposed to fight that long. Do you have enough health meter to go on? It's super confusing. So, for me, the controls are very mid. I'm uh, I would give it higher scores for combos and special moves if I could have really ever pulled them off. Of course, you see the CPU doing it, so they're not terrible. It's just confusing. So I'm gonna give those probably a 2.6. Maybe 2.8. Like that's kind of a wild swing there, but the more I think about it, I think a little higher up the scale is worth it. And maybe with more quarters, if I were so inclined, that and the ability to master some of those moves, it would be better. But it it I would say it's better than most beat 'em ups because you got a variety, but it's, less than any kind of fighter, right? So it's, yeah, again, 2.8 is probably as high as I would go on that one. Now let's talk story. The story of this one is, um mostly clear, right? There's no damsel in distress. There's no overall objective. It just appears to be street fighting. You're working your way up through the ranks to become a champion, to earn money, fame, glory, all that stuff. So the story seems fairly straightforward. Um, Really, not much more I can really say about that. That's the story, right? You're taking on the characters in order to run through a gauntlet of tag matches until you're the champion. So, from that standpoint, again, I'm gonna say it's another 2.8. It's not exactly middle of the road. It's not a unique story by any means. It's not a well developed story. It's just a cheap and easy story that you can buy into simply and know what you're doing without a lot of other exposition. So, from that standpoint, a 2.8. So, now we have to talk overall. Is this a game with all of that, with the better graphics, the mid level, sound, the confusing controls, the um, obvious story. Overall, what are we looking at? And is this game worth spending more of our quarters on? For me, I gotta say, uh, overall, I'm thinking that this is probably around that overall 2.8 to 3 area. I think it looks good. If I knew the move set, I think I'd have a lot more fun with this one. And so I'm interested in playing it some more. I want to uh, learn one of the characters. Again, you only have an option of playing two characters, but they can do co-op. So this is a great one to play with a buddy. And I think it is going to be one, like I said, 2.8 to 3. And it's one I am definitely interested in putting more quarters into and continuing to play to see how good I can get at this, how well I can get those moves off, and just how far I can go into this tag tournament. So that's my thoughts on Street Smart from SNK. I would love to know what you guys think. Hit a comment below. And if you've made it to the end, you might as well smash that like button for me. And don't forget to click subscribe for more one quarter game reviews. And until the next time, have fun.